This is Marcus Whitney's audio universe.
Like, you gotta do the work. You gotta show up and just do the work.
Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. Back with another episode of Marcus Whitney Live. I'm really excited about today's episode because anyone who has watched my show, read my blog, or just sort of kept up with me at all knows that I talk quite a bit about sobriety. It's been, an incredible gift in my life and has helped in every way imaginable. Clarity, performance, sense of purpose, being able to be there for people. And, occasionally you run across somebody where they share that gift, and then it's even more impressive when they take it one step further and they make that sort of an important part of their lives in terms of what they're giving out into the world. And so I was really, really fortunate to be connected with today's guest. I'm so happy to introduce to the universe Zak Williams. Zak is an actor, entrepreneur, mental health advocate, and he is launching a brand new product called PIM, which we're going to dig all into next week. But we're going to dig all into over the course of this episode that is launching next week. But for starters, we need to get into the background and the story of how he got here. So without further ado, Zak, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Marcus. It's awesome to be on today.
Yeah, man, it's so great to have you, and I'm really excited to dig into your story. So, if you don't mind, can we just start with a little bit of background on, who you are and sort of how you arrived at this moment, in terms of your focus and your passion for mental health issues, awareness, being an advocate for it, and actually, spending your time in your life and your resources launching a company to support people through it.
Certainly. For one preface to it, I'm not currently acting. I haven't for over a decade, almost 15 years now. So my main focus is entrepreneurial activity, mental health advocacy, and a side of investing. So that's where I spend the lion's share of my time outside of being a dad.
That's exactly what I do and who I love to talk to. So sorry for not, saying that was a part of your past and not sort of your present.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's all good. I just want to emphasize in terms of my story, most of my focus is around mental health at this point. And what got me to that point is I had experienced stress and anxiety and all sorts of different forms, generally in pretty extreme forms throughout my life. In my childhood and adolescence, I experienced a lot of it. My freshman year of college, as a freshman at New York University, experienced September 11th.
Wow.
And September 11th, the attacks. And then, throughout adulthood, leading up to my dad dying by suicide, it was bad and only got worse. And so I was diagnosed with PTSD and had extreme anxiety and stress associated with it. And I realized that I had to do something to take care of myself. And the things I was using, the things that I was hoping would provide support for me, things like alcohol, trying to use things like cannabis products, trying to use things like prescription pharmaceuticals. None of those helped me manage my well-being in the way that I wanted. Mm. And so I realized that about 5 years ago, starting that process, that something had to change. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I discovered was that a commitment to service focused around something I'm passionate about, specifically mental health, mm-hmm. Was very healing for me personally. Mm. And I found mental health advocacy was very restorative, specifically working with organizations in a supporting capacity, helping them with their strategy, organizational development, focused on the leadership development of the organizations. And so I found that to be one element that was extremely helpful. And then starting about 4 years ago, I realized that I didn't need to rely upon alcohol and things like it to support my stress and anxiety. I could find other solutions. And in embarking upon that journey, I realized that, hey, I don't need this in my life. But as a result of that, I'm still experiencing stress and anxiety. So I had to find other solutions to support me. And I found a collection of things that helped. Mindfulness, some meditation, community support groups. Also, I found that a collection of amino acid formulations and adaptogenic formulations were really helpful for me in my well-being, primarily to balance out my hormones and endocrinal system. And so along that journey, I realized, wow, there's an opportunity to create something bigger than the sum of its parts, to develop a company that stands for mental health support in the consumer goods category. And just over 18 months ago, I embarked upon that journey and created a company called PIM, focused on seeking to solve for acute mental health conditions utilizing natural compounds like amino acids. And spent 2019 in product development, came upon a formulation that we found to be safe, delicious, and effective for the people that were trialing it. And 2020 has been spent commercializing the product. So we're launching next week. We'll be out in market September 8th, able to ship throughout the United States. I'm so excited and proud of my team and the work that they've put into doing something that was challenging to get to this point. And I'm really hoping that we can use the company's vision, our product base, ideally, and communicate to our customers that we want to be an anchor for mental health support. We want to stand for mental health support in the private sector and ultimately be able to spread the word of reducing the stigma and establishing a foundation around people feeling like they have something that they can rely upon to support them through difficult times. And so, a lens I'm taking around this is the lens of an advocate. I created this brand to stand for mental health. And we want to continue to advocate for reducing the stigma, to encouraging healthy activity like mindfulness, meditation, proper nutrition, not harmfully self-medicating. All those things are the things that we want to take a stand for. And all roads in my life lead to mental health support at this point, save for being a dad to my son. And of course, there's a mental health support element of that.
Yeah.
As any parent would know. But we also want to have some fun and show up for him. And like that.
That's awesome. I have... There were two things that you said that I wanted to dig into a little bit more because they just made me reflect on my own journey. So the first one is the moment where you said, something has to change, right? You were a young person. You had accumulated trauma from a series of life experiences, right? All throughout your life, all of us do, right? We all are accumulating trauma, but then you had like some really significant events that happened. When I think back on my own issues and how I was able to get to the other side of them, there's always sort of this self-determined quote unquote bottom, where I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. But it also was helpful to have a bit of a reflection back into my life that said, hey, you're not broken. Things have happened to you and you're coping and dealing with them the best you can, right? Because it sort of gave me that little bit of strength to be able to find, because it takes a lot of courage to say something's got to change, right? You know? So I'm just wondering, you know, in that process, were there little nudges of encouragement that sort of said to you, hey, you're not broken, but the world is a tough place and things have happened to you, and to sort of give you the encouragement that you could make the stand for yourself and say, I don't know how I'm going to fix this, but like, I'm going to start the journey?
Some great comments, great question around the brokenness consideration. For me, I used to relish in the broken component, thinking to myself, oh, I'm broken, I'm traumatized, I'm damaged. As a result, I'm special, and I can do the things that are harmful for me in terms of self-medicating and the like, because that's what I need to get me through the day because of my brokenness. And what became apparent to me over time is I'm not as broken as I was thought. Excuse me. That phrase was broken. I'm not as broken as I thought I was. And when it comes to mending the trauma and hurt that's accrued over a lifetime, you can come out of it very resilient. And the thing that I found was when I embraced the brokenness of it all, it separated me, it isolated me from others. Saying, oh, I'm broken. They can't get what I'm going through. They can't associate with my experience. And that's not the case. Most people can empathize with your experience. There are exceptions, but you can find common ground and connect with people through a shared experience.
Right.
And the lens that I've taken over time is one of post-traumatic growth.
I love that phrase. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to my friend, Dr. Raghu Appasani, for putting me onto that.
That's a good one.
The lens of growth around experiencing traumatic events and finding the resilience and strength to get through them enables you to show up for others and maintain strength in vulnerability, and to be open and capable of solving extremely challenging considerations, both in one's own life and the community that one is a part of. And so I think there are times where, it can be okay to say, hey, I'm broken, I'm feeling broken. That needs to be acknowledged.
Yeah. But
I think there's an element of that needs to be considered around I'll speak for myself. Me claiming that I'm broken and that I'm not sure how to fix myself or repair the damage and the like, leads me to not make decisions around connecting and trying to find ways to actually see people eye to eye. And ultimately that can leave one very isolated. And when one's isolated, it leads to all sorts of issues and considerations. And I'm an ambivert, so sometimes I like being around people. Sometimes I need to be alone, but that's not to say that there's joy and appreciation around finding solitude, finding peace and quiet. It's just about intentionally pushing away because you're qualifying yourself as so special, so unique that no one will get you. Because the thing is, when you find there are tribes out there, there are communities that will get you. And no matter who you are. And so With our company, we're seeking to build a community. Our first product is something we call the Mood Chew. It's meant to provide stress and anxiety support, primarily through amino acid and an adaptogenic delivery system, meaning we've got amino acid and adaptogenic compounds that are present in our product. It's a chewable. It goes into your system and ideally provides anxiety and stress support. But it's a premise. It's a concept that we're seeking to put forth as well, and that's the idea that anyone with the appropriate lens and focus can find the version of themselves that they want to be and take care of themselves in the manner that supports that version of themselves. And so that's our goal.
I've got one more question about your path here before I really want to dig into the product.
Sure.
And it's about the order in which you embraced service and sobriety. That caught me off guard a little bit. The standard order is somebody, they walk into the doors, they say, I'm not going to drink anymore or whatever, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to drug anymore. And then, they're talking to someone who's walked that path a little bit longer, and they say, you need to stop focusing on yourself and you need to focus on service. And for you, if I heard you correctly, you went service first, and then a year later, you realize, oh, well, I don't need to self-medicate in this way, anymore. To me, that's a key point of the story that I just want to hear a little bit about, because it gets into the mental health versus, quite frankly, brokenness, born this way, just the relationship between an individual and a substance. Because you went in this order, I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about that from you, and then I want to really dig into the product.
Sure, absolutely. It's a great question. The reason why I embraced service before sobriety, because I found a very restoring path in teaching financial literacy in prison.
Wow.
At San Quentin prison, working with an incarcerated individual named Curtis Carroll. He goes by Wall Street. Found an enormous amount of healing through volunteering for that course, which was called the FEEL course, which stands for Financial Empowerment, Emotional Literacy.
Wow.
And so that was kind of the catalyst for me, is saying around, wow, this is something that I can use to support and help recover from the trauma that I experienced from my dad dying by suicide. I no longer volunteer in the prison system, and I found myself ultimately being drawn towards mental health initiatives because it was something that was so near and dear to my heart. And the first organization I ended up segueing into in terms of in the mental health space is an organization called Bring Change to Mind. And it focused on removing the stigma associated with mental health, using campaigns focused around young people as an audience, and then creating and deploying mental health supporting curricula in high schools and some universities. And there was just 100%, or almost near full alignment in doing that type of work. I loved teaching financial literacy, loved it. I have a background in business and technology, and so being able to share my experience and go through kind of the paths of discussing and teaching financial literacy, both from my experience, but also in terms of thinking about how it can best support people through their journey through the system and beyond. That was great. But it kind of happened by chance. And so in that journey, I realized I was still trying to use things like alcohol to support the extreme amounts of stress and anxiety I was dealing with. And it got to the point where it was just like, something needs to stop. This is not, you can't be self-medicating and committing to service and expecting to find yourself healed through this process. So
Right.
it took a while to catch. When I decided I wanted to stop using alcohol to try and attempt to support my well-being. But, at this point, it's been over 3 years without using alcohol. And I found it to be immensely restorative for me.
So I am interested in understanding the science now. Okay, so my day job when I'm not doing podcasting is I'm in the healthcare venture capital space, and one thing I know from that space is that the history of healthcare in this country is very interesting. We've done some incredible things in the acute space. We've done some incredible things in the pharmaceutical space. Mental health has been a challenge for us. It has really been a challenge for our healthcare industry to understand it, and we have largely addressed it through talk therapy and through drugs, pharmaceuticals, right? And so when you talk about amino acids, I'm just interested to understand what is the science behind PIM, and really, the cohort of ingredients and the symptoms that it provides relief from. Like talk about the actual, like, what's going on, in the body that your product can actually help people who are suffering with anxiety.
Sure. Well, first we can start with what amino acids are. They are the building blocks of proteins.
Mm-hmm.
They help support your body's hormones, ultimately the endocrine system, help you build and support the development of tissue, and help facilitate the development of neurotransmitters and the operations of those neurotransmitters. So that's how it relates to the brain.
Got it.
In terms of how amino acids impact well-being and optimal mental health, it's pretty straightforward. They impact elements of the endocrine system. So our first product interacts with a system in the body called the GABA system. And the GABA system is responsible for function. And
hey, can you say that?
Did I cut out there?
Yeah. Say that one more time.
Yeah. So the GABA system is responsible for neurotransmitter function and regulating the amount of information that is kind of grokked by the brain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so if you're experiencing a GABA deficiency, often the experience of that is feeling overwhelmed, feeling like there's too much information coming in and the like. If you get the appropriate amount of GABA in your system, you have better filters that help you support information understanding. And so that's the element of the system that our first the element of the endocrinal system that our first product supports.
Mm-hmm.
Also, with L-theanine, there are studies and science and research that shows that it has a positive impact on the activity of a system in the brain called the default mode network. And the default mode network is responsible for such activity you might know as rumination, future tripping, things like that. And L-theanine helps better regulate the default mode network so there's less rumination. So it promotes things like focus and clarity. Other types of amino acids impact and help regulate different elements of the endocrinal system. For instance, and we don't have a product yet that contains this, but I'll use it as an example. The serotonin system. It's impacted by things like SSRIs, MAO inhibitors, things that would traditionally be known as antidepressants. When you take certain amino acids in supplement form, like 5-HTP, that helps boost serotonin levels. I would highly not recommend taking supplements that regulate serotonin levels and things like antidepressants that regulate serotonin levels. You know, at the end of the day, when it comes to any of these products that help balance out the endocrinal system, I recommend people consult a clinician, a healthcare provider, if they're taking any sort of pharmaceutical prescriptions, because ultimately doctors can help guide patients to optimal methods of support. But the ultimate goal is regulating elements of the endocrinal system. So we're starting with the GABA system. As I mentioned, the serotonin system is something that can be effectively regulated in certain ways, utilizing amino acid compounds. The same thing applies to endorphin system, adrenal system, to some respects, the thyroid system. So all these different elements, it's just about finding the building blocks that ultimately can be aggregated in your system to create compounds that provide optimal support. And so the pursuit that this relates to is both neuroscience, but also endocrinology, and melding the two, the intersection of the two is neuroendocrinology. So, we work with our science advisory board, who come from, scientists from Harvard Medical School, UCSF, USC. These are all researchers, clinicians focused on thinking through how we can find systems-based solutions for mental health support. Because that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
We're providing a systems-based solution.
Right.
It's not a pill that will solve all your problems.
No.
It's just a step in the right direction.
Right. Right. I do feel that we are getting a much better understanding of the brain broadly. I don't mean science, but I mean broadly. We're starting to understand the brain better, and if anyone watched Elon Musk's Neuralink demo, we're understanding that the brain is controlling all of these things, and it's sending all these waves, and its ability to do its best to regulate itself does have a lot to do with our chemistry, and how balanced that chemistry is at the end of the day. And so it is exciting to see this conversation advancing from, just simple, crude judgments around, okay, this person is broken, or they're crazy, or any, all of these things that I feel like when we were growing up, that was kind of like the default conversation, right? You just sort of say, this person's loony, this person's crazy, this person can't handle life, to now understanding there's chemistry at play, and the brain is part of what's happening here, and the way that people are responding to the things they're experiencing in their lives can be addressed, it can be addressed, right? You know, just even that idea that it can be addressed is just so hopeful for me, you know.
Yeah, me too. I think there's so much more science and research that can be done. For us, we're providing ideally the compounds that can better support, you know, the relationship between the brain and the hormones that help regulate mood and the like. Than say not taking it because, you know, better is relative. But, you know, the ultimate goal for us is to push people into healthy activity, mindfulness, meditation, healthy diet, exercise.
Right.
You know, I would love to see an environment where people are able to find solutions for stress and anxiety, ultimately without needing, you know, a chewable, a pill, whatever it may be. But you know, we're far from that. And in the meantime, we want to find ways to provide day-to-day support while we can take an opportunity and kind of really identify what are the things that are causing duress, anguish, and the like, and hopefully find a path forward. Highly recommend therapy for many people. Highly recommend, you know, specific forms of therapy like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, which stands for something. You know, like all these, you know, there's a mindset around thinking about this, and it's called precision mental health care. And that is for a given individual, for their experiences, for their makeup, there is likely a solution set of physical experiences like therapy or, you know, telehealth experiences, potentially an optimal diet, potentially compounds that they can be taken to support their optimal well-being and mental health. And so for every person, there's kind of a different permutation.
Right.
And, you know, the ultimate goal would be, what I would want to see is that people fall into their flow.
Yeah. How
How can we get people into their flow?
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a really, really good note to end on. As a North Star, how do we get each individual person into their own particular flow? Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Zach, thank you so much. Everybody out there, next week is the launch of this groundbreaking product. So you can follow them right now online at YouCanPim. That's PYM, YouCanPim. That's on Instagram. That's on Twitter. YouCanPim.com. Good branding. Consistent branding is the website. And follow and you know, I want to say support, but I would say more, you know, educate yourself. You know, educate yourself about everything we are starting to learn about mental health and all of the new innovative ways that people can take action to better support themselves and not just sort of have to live in misery and with an incorrect view of themselves being broken. So with that, you know, thank you, Zach, so much. My book, Create and Orchestrate, is in stores now. Go grab it if you haven't already. The podcast, Marcus Whitney's Audio Universe, everywhere that you subscribe to and listen to podcasts. You can follow me online everywhere at Marcus Whitney. That's it. I will be back tomorrow with yet another episode of Marcus Whitney Live. Y'all take care of yourselves out there, and until the next time, let's build a new normal, y'all. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to Marcus Whitney's Audio Universe.